In this video, we're going to rank the best player roles in Football Manager 2024. Now, before we get into the video, there are a few things I need to speak about first, just to clarify some things. And the first is that this rating system is going to be based on my experience playing with these roles in the game. And I think Football Manager 2024 is the first game that I can boldly say I've used all the roles that are actually inside the game. The second thing I want to clarify is the rating system that we're going to be using for this particular rating, something like that. So we're going to go according to C or C plus or C plus plus or A ratings. Now this is following the scouting system. So if you have a D player in scouting, you know it's a player that is somewhat average, and C minus or C plus are players that are good enough to actually be inside the team, but B, is a lot better players, but they're not like the super best. And then A plus is going to be like the top tier, god tier level roles that we're going to be looking at. So the first person we're looking at here is the standard goalkeeper on the fan. Now this is very useful for the lower leagues. So I'm just going to put this right around C minus because he's not completely a useless role. Or let's say he's a normal goalkeeper that works, right? So I'm just going to put it in C tier for now. Now the next is the carrilero. I hope I said that correctly. I didn't really wish that the carrilero was going to come in this early because I feel I have a lot to say about the Carrilero. Okay, so I'm going to put the Carrilero in the C plus category because I feel for some reason the Carrilero is a very useful role in Football Manager, and a lot of people don't actually know that. Now in case you're in a situation where, in case I'm using a 4-3-3 system like this and then I have somebody in here, so in case this winger that is on attack duty on the left hand side actually gets sent off, it means that you no longer have a player in this situation, and then the wing back that is on this side is basically left alone to deal with that area. The Carrilero has the ability to actually close down the wide areas. If you look at the description of the Carrilero, it is the job of the Carrilero to just shuffle and cover lateral areas of the pitch. So he's not getting forward, he's not getting too far back, he's covering the lateral area of the pitch. So he's the only one that can actually get into this role here and actually help out. That's why I kind of like the Carrilero. So I'm just going to put him in C plus for now. And the next is going to be the false nine, also coming in very early in the list. The false line is going to be C plus as well, just like the Carrilero. It's a very useful role, but it's not a role that I've been using all the time in Football Manager. It works very well if you have inside forwards getting into that space to try and exploit, but as a center forward, he's not the ideal goal scorer. He's more of an attacking midfielder, to be honest. So in case you need an attacking midfielder in the striker position, the false nine is very good for you. And Gonch is very similar, although he's more stationary than the false nine. The false nine has more freedom. I'm just going to throw in the Ngonch into the C plus category. We also have a deep line forward, but I'm going to put him in the same category as the goalkeeper because I feel he's worse than the false nine when it comes to goal scoring. The false nine is slightly more aggressive. So the deep line forward, I'm going to put him in the C minus tier. I haven't yet found somebody that's going to go into the B tier. I think the complete forward, also I'm going to give it C plus because this year he's very similar to the deep line forward on Sporting team. You need to have an absolutely powerful player in order to have the complete forward work exceptionally well for you in Football Manager 2024. So if you have that kind of beastie player, Haaland and the rest, you can have a complete forward. The next person we see here is the first player that is actually going to go into the B tier for us. Now, the reason why I'm putting the complete wing back into the B tier is because Football Manager as a game has evolved the way the complete wing back actually behaves. What used to happen before is that the complete wing back used to get all this way forward. He never really used to go into the field, but in FM 2024, the complete wing back has the freedom to actually cut inside and outside at the same time. So it's a very powerful role this year. So I'm going to put the complete wing back into B tier. B tier because as much as I like the role, he's not very good defensively, so you need to have somebody else to cover for him. Next role we're looking at here is the target forward. I'm actually going to put the target forward in C minus. Scary that I haven't yet found somebody for D tier, but we're going to get there eventually. Target forward, in case you have a tall beastie striker, he's not really far from a complete forward. You could have a complete forward and he gives you behavior of a target forward anyway. So target man, I'm going to put him in this particular position of C minus. Not very bad, very useful as well. Poacher is going to be in the same category as target man because he does, as much as he's good in building up play as well, he's very limited is that the fact that you're going to need him just to be inside the box. He's not going to go too far from the center of the box as well. I know as a striker, you don't really want him to go very far. He's not very B tier, A tier yet for me. Next is the wide midfielder. This is a role that as much as I used it, I found it only useful in the lower league. So it's the first role I'm actually going to put in the D tier. What I like about the wide midfielder though is that he has a lot of freedom, unlike other wingers and inside forwards. You can't really ask them to do much, but you can ask the wide midfielder to do a lot. So that brings a lot of something into the game. Trequartista, I do like this role. I'm going to put it in the C minus, similar to the poacher and the target forward because he doesn't help out that much defensively. And when I used it with a top player, he wasn't really doing so much, especially when it comes to like creating chances. He could try and create chances, but wasn't scoring as much. So it didn't really help out that he wasn't helping defensively. So he wasn't doing much going forward either. So it was almost like he was just inside the game for some reason. And I didn't really find him. So Carrilero this year, C minus. If somebody else actually used the Carrilero quite well, do let me know. Wide target man, another one of my favorite roles. I'm going to put him in the C plus. If you've been following this channel for long now, you probably know that I managed East 5 at some point. And that is where I had good interactions with the wide target man or wide target forward on support duty. This player is actually exceptional, especially for counter-attacking teams. He can help you get the ball out. He's an outlet for you, so in case you want to start a counter-attack, the goalkeeper or the centre backs are looking for your wide target man in the wide areas, so they'll likely try to send the ball to him. He's one of the good roles this year. I do like him. Anchorman is another role that I did like this year, but I'm going to put him in the C minus category because there's a different role that can actually do what the Anchorman does. Is why I'm not really going to push the Anchorman so high. Most of the other roles that are in the A tier, we will get to them eventually, to be honest. Looking at the inverted wingback on support duty, I do like the inverted wingback, so I'm going to give him B. Okay, let's go into B tier because the inverted wingback, very similar to the complete wingback, but the difference is that he doesn't go out wide too much. So, but he's very aggressive this year. I do like the inverted wingback. DLP on what duty do I normally give to DLP? DLP, I'm going to put him in the C tier. So C tier because he's solid enough, but defensively, there are other options. And getting forward and being more aggressive, there are also other options. But the deep line playmaker has been solid this year. He's quite good, so I'm going to add him to that list. C plus because he's not a very bad player. Very good role. Libero is another role that I've played around with. I'm going to put it in the C plus tier because the libero works very well with a different role, which is the ball playing defender or the halfback, but we'll get to the halfback very soon. The libero can switch positions with the halfback very nicely. Can also control the game. It's almost like a deep line playmaker in the center back role. So it's why I like the libero this year. I used to be afraid of using all these roles before, but from 2024 really changed my mind and my perspective on a lot of things. So libero is going to go into the C plus tier. Ram de Tour. The Ram de Tour role. I do like this role as well. He's a role that I know I've used the least, even though I've actually tried it a few times. Ram de Tour, I'm going to put it in the C plus tier. You're going to need a very specific player that can play in this role for you to actually make it work. A very good striker, a very intelligent striker. But I'm going to put the Ram de Tour based on the C tier. Based on my experience of the role, he's a player that can, like the Trocatista, he could also get lost in the game if something isn't working in their favor. So I'm going to put it in C minus. Regista is a role that I'm going to give the C plus grade as well. Very similar to the deep line forward and the false line, or very similar to the deep line playmaker on the false line. It's a very aggressive role. In fact, I'm going to bump the Regista to a B plus grade because I've had a lot of fun with the Regista. He's a very aggressive deep line playmaker. So very similar to the deep line playmaker, but he's more aggressive. So I'm going to increase his ability here, or increase his ranking to the B plus. Sweeper keeper is also going to join the B plus tier. That is because the sweeper keeper, to me, you can use him in the lower leagues, you can use him in the top leagues, you can use him in almost any team that you want. But as long as you're using him on defend, once you go to attack, you start having problems. But the sweeper keeper is quite good because he can start counter attacks. As much as we like to play out from the defense and all those kind of stuff, I like him because of the counter attacks. The next one here we're going to be looking at is the wing back role. The wing back is also going to the B tier category because he doesn't defend as often as I want him to. Now the wing back can actually offer some width, but he's sometimes, unlike he's very similar to the complete wing back in the sense that he forgets that he's supposed to track back and defend. From my experience, that's why I don't really want to use him on defend duty, but if I'm forced to, I try to do that. So I'm going to put him in B tier just because of his defensive prowess. He doesn't track back as often as I want him to track back. Wide playmaker is another role I'm going to give C minus. I used to enjoy this role in previous Football Manager games. I think from 2024, the issue I had was finding the right player to actually play the wide playmaker. As much as I used him in some leagues, I think in Atletico Madrid, I also used Adagula and Antoine Griezmann in this role. They did quite well, but it was only for a short period of time that I used the role. So I'm going to put it in C minus. Not a bad role, very good, but at some point, there are some roles that we really have to rely on Football Manager, and we'll get to this. The next role that we're looking at here is the advanced playmaker. This is the year that I know I've avoided the advanced playmaker as often as I can. But he's a very good role in Football Manager. I'm also going to put him into the C minus tier. He's a very good role, to be honest. This is personally because I haven't used him as often as I want to in Football Manager. But I haven't really seen the need to use the advanced playmaker because You can obviously tweak roles so like crazy in Football Manager 2024. It can make a lot of players do a lot of things, and the fact that players rely on their player attributes to behave inside the game, it kind of made the advanced playmaker not so useful as much as I want it to be. Although it's a very good role, and in the lower leagues, it's a very useful role. So I think I'm going to change my mind here and move him to the C plus grade because I know it's a very good role. Next is the no nonsense fullback. I really didn't see a need to use this. This is the more like a situational role for me. I never really saw the need to use this except I was super defensive, and I rarely go super defensive. No nonsense fullback and no nonsense centre back are two roles that I really touched. You could use a fullback on defend DT to do the same job, and if you're playing with a very low mentality, it's going to work out similar to the no nonsense centre back or no nonsense fullback. So there wasn't really a need to do this. The next role we're going to look at is the roaming playmaker on support. And to be honest with you, this is the first role that goes into A tier for me because the roaming playmaker is similar to the Regista and the deep line playmaker at the same time. He's going to track back, he's going to be all around the field, he's going to actually find a way to create a lot of chances without staying in one position. So you can find him anywhere in the game, to be honest. That's what I like. He's the one player that's going to go into A tier at this point. The only problem I have with the roaming playmaker is the fact that, what was that problem again? Yes, you could easily mark him out of the game. Now, if you had a roaming playmaker in your team and there weren't other options that were helping out to create chances for you, if the AI found a way to nullify the roaming playmaker, it means that your team was going to struggle in that particular game. So it's the only downside of the roaming playmaker. But to be honest, every other thing, I kind of enjoy that. Next role that's going to go into this screen, I'm going to put him in B tier, the inside forward. That is because as much as this is the most, to me, one of the most powerful roles in this Football Manager 2024, I found that it's a bit overused and it helps people forget that there are other roles in the game that he can actually use. The inside forward is quite good this year. I could easily put him in A tier, but I'm just going to leave him in the B tier for now. Ball playing defender is another player that I'm going to put into the A tier category because of how expansive this player actually is. Similar to the libero, the ball playing defender is going to get ahead, create chances, dribble a lot, especially with the glitch now that we have the dribble more instruction for the ball playing defender. He can do everything in this game. He can start counter attacks, he can take long shots, he can try killer balls, he can play long balls. Anything you want in getting your team to unlock the opposition's defense, ball playing defender is your guy. Now we just have a few more roles. If you're new to the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when more Football Manager videos like this do come out. I do go on to share tactics and Football Manager hints and tips and also stories. So if you like this kind of content, do go to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so you can get notified when more videos like this do come out. Now the next role we're going to look at is the ball winning midfielder role on, I like it on defend, especially as a single pivot. This is very scary, to be honest. I'm going to put the ball playing defender or the ball winning midfielder in the C plus tier. That is because a lot of people don't use the ball winning midfielder as a defensive midfielder, but I'm one person that enjoys doing that because it's unpredictable. One, the number 10 of the opposition's team is going to have a very hard time playing that game, but it's always useful to have somebody else that can cover for the ball winning midfielder when he gets out of position. I do like how aggressive he is. In this game, you need aggression. It actually helps. Having him as a DM or even as a central midfielder can actually help us a lot. Box-to-box midfielder is another player that I'm going to put maybe in the B tier, to be honest, because very similar to the ball-winning midfielder, you can ask a box-to-box midfielder to become a ball-winning midfielder. So it's why I actually like him. He can get into the box, he can score goals, he can create chances. Very B tier kind of player. The next role we have here is the central defender, standard central defender on defend. Now I'm going to actually put them in C minus tier. Not because he's a bad player, like I said, he's a useful player. So it's actually where he's going to sit in nicely in that particular position. Doesn't do anything too fancy, good for possession style of play, possession-based football. You also have a central midfielder here. I'm going to move this to the C plus. Nope, I can't do that. I'm going to move it to the B plus category because there's a player here that I do like. Central midfielder on support duty, very good for holding space. Like I mentioned before, he doesn't drift too far out of the center of the pitch. Central midfielder on attack gets a lot into the box and is one of the very good roles this year. So I'm going to just put the central midfielder in the B tier for now. And halfback also B tier because he's very good at staying when the libero is going forward. So if you want to create a back three out of a back two, you're going to want to have a halfback in there, and it does job very well, especially this year. So I do like the halfback. Another one I'm going to bring into one of the categories that I'm really scared to actually throw him into, it's the Mezzala. Now the Mezzala, to me, it's scary that I'm going to move him into A tier because very similar to the central midfielder on attack, but this time the Mezzala has the ability to actually get into the half spaces or even out wide if you're very attacking and play a lot of crosses into the box. And low crosses work a lot this year, so Mezzala is your guy. I do like the Mezzala this year. I've had a lot of fun playing with this role. Now, it doesn't matter if it's lower leagues. With East 5 in Scottish League 2, I had double promotions using a Mezzala, using two Mezzalas at some point. So it's a very scary role that you need to have in your team. Very difficult to mark. I do like the Mezzala. Pressing forward, I do like this one. When you bring the pressing forward in, I'm going to put him in B tier. That's because he's one of the top roles in the game. Very aggressive. Compared to FM 2023, the pressing forward seemed to be a lot more aggressive this year. And not only that, goal scoring as well. Before, it's almost like he was more of a pressing kind of striker and he didn't really contribute much to goals. But this year, they kind of fixed that. So I do have him pressing forward. Even in the East 5 Scottish League 2 side, Mezzala and pressing forward were my combination. They worked so well. So I'm going to have the pressing forward in B tier. So I have a few more roles. We have the standard winger here. The standard winger, I'm going to put him in the B tier as well, just like the pressing forward, because this year, another role I used to run away from in previous Football Manager games was the winger. I used to like players that cut inside a lot, but winger this year is quite good. And also the ability to cut inside. The winger also has that ability and he can stay wider and cut inside, you know. So B tier, honestly, and most of the OP tactics that I've seen, they don't shy away from having the winger in there, so it's good to have. Inverted winger, on the other hand, I'm also going to throw him into the B category alongside the inside forward because the two of them are very similar, to be honest. I think the difference is that the inside forward gets into the box and the inverted winger likes to turn and cross with his other, which is correct foot, even though he's on the other side. So that's kind of how I notice them. Next is the shadow striker, and to be honest with you, I'm going to throw him into the A tier straight away. This is one role that is very hidden. A lot of people don't know the shadow striker. To me, is one of the very aggressive roles in this game. With a deep line forward or a complete forward up front, even with an advanced forward, the shadow striker can still swap positions and get into the box and create chances and score goals. Also, because he likes to press the opposition's defenders and the opposition's DM, I really like the shadow striker this year. Very aggressive role. You need to have him in your team at some point, even if you're not creating a tactic with him. Once in a while, throw in your shadow striker in there, have somebody that can play that role. It will transform your team. Now, next we have the Segundo Volante. This is by far everybody's favorite role in Football Manager for like the past 2 years. So Segundo Volante is straight to A tier, a defensive midfielder that can actually act like a box-to-box midfielder and also a deep line playmaker. Super aggressive. He's in all the OP tactics you have ever seen in Football Manager. Segundo Volante is very powerful this year. In previous games, there weren't really a lot of people using Segundo Volante, but this year it is so overpowered. Even in FM 2023, super overpowered this year. Another role that a lot of people don't really talk about is a fullback on attack duty. Now, I think everybody at this point knows that the very best tactic in Football Manager has the fullbacks on attack duty. So A tier for me, because when I was in the lower leagues, I couldn't use the complete wingback. I couldn't use the normal wingback. So I only had players that could play as fullbacks. So all I had to do was use a fullback. So in my own experience, the fullback works tremendously well this year. Now, as much as I grew up, or let's say as much as I grew into the game, and started understanding that in lower leagues you could still use complete wing backs if you want, I still didn't drift away from the fullbacks because they're a lot more defensive, even though they get ahead. I think that's where the issue is with the fullbacks. There are a lot of players that tend to get ahead, like the wing back on support. I told you he gets ahead and then forgets to come back. The fullback doesn't get too far ahead. He gets ahead enough and remembers to always come back. Another role that I like to put, this one is going to be in B tier, to be honest, is the defensive midfielder. I like this role on support, but the only issue why I'm bringing him to B tier is because the ball winning midfielder can do what I want the defensive midfielder to do. Now, it will not be the same for everybody. For my experience, the defensive midfielder on support is a solid version of the ball winning midfielder because he doesn't get too far forward. He doesn't draw himself too wide to go and press the ball. But if you wanted him to do that, he could still do that. I just like the fact that he's solid and you can transform him into anything. You can make him a deep line playmaker. You can make him a Segundo Volante. So I'm going to put him in B tier. Most people would probably put him in A tier, but for now, I'm just going to leave it in B tier. So we have three left, or we're left with three guys now. The attacking midfielder on attack or support is also going to go into the B tier category because, to be honest with you, an advanced playmaker can be created from the attacking midfielder. I do like the fact that this year, the generic roles kind of work very well. Before we didn't really need to use generic roles, but they're so good this year. Attacking midfielder on attack duty, long shots from the number 10 position, he is excellent. So you can have him in B tier as well. The advanced forward, we all know, is going to go into the GOAT category because he is the GOAT striker among all strikers. The advanced forward is going to get you goals. He's going to lead the line. There isn't really much to say about the advanced forward. If you've used him, you probably already know. Most of the guys that are going to get you all the goals is a striker that is leading the front. But remember, the only problem I have with him, which I need you to remember, is that you need to create space for the advanced forward. If there's no space, he might struggle. So that's the only downside for me using advanced forward. Is why I like to dabble with the deep line forward and the false nines and all those other guys, and also the shadow striker with a deep line forward up front because of space. That's all. So advanced forward, if he has space to eat up, you can go with all that space and then have him. And the last role for me, the defensive winger. This role, to be honest with you, there are no words to explain how goated the defensive winger is this year. Now, in all honesty, this is, can I put him in the A tier first position? Yes, A tier first position. This role was so underrated when I started playing Football Manager. Even at East 5, I couldn't use the defensive winger because I thought it wasn't going to work and I didn't really understand how it works. So what is a defensive winger to begin with? A defensive winger is a winger that actually is more aggressive than a normal winger. He has the ability to press the opposition. So think of a shadow striker that presses the opposition's defensive midfielders. A defensive winger presses the opposition's fullbacks and at some points even their centre backs. So if you have a very aggressive system or a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-4-2 and you have defensive wingers in there, or even a 3-4-3, they will be the ones to press the opposition on the flanks and they will stop the opposition's fullbacks from getting into your own region and causing a lot of havoc. So almost like they're pinning their fullbacks back and causing a lot of problems from there. And sometimes in a different system that I used recently, a tactic created by Fletch, I'm going to put a link in the description so you can check out that tactic next. Most of the play is happening on the left hand side and then you have the defensive winger on the right. Nobody's marking him, but he is always pressing the other fullback. So he's always in space and he tends to score a lot of goals from that position. It's scary, to be honest. I really underrated this role before. It's kind of why I'm putting it in A tier because I learned recently how good the defensive winger actually is. The pressing, the scoring, acts like a normal winger at some times, and then very, very good defensively, very solid defensively. Because we love defensive Football Manager. If you can stop goals or stop conceding goals, you're in heaven, to be honest. So this is my rankings. These are the players that these are the player roles that I have in A tier. These are the few guys that I have in B tier and C tier. I think the D tier role, for me, players that are in D tier, they are roles that I didn't really see the need to use enough because you could always replace them with somebody else. And then C plus tier are very similar to that as well, or they're more like roles that I feel could have done better, but they didn't really do that well for me. So like White Playmaker, Poacher, Trocatista, they did well, but I wasn't really overhyped with them. And then the C plus tier, obviously, these are the useful roles. False nine, deep line playmaker, those roles that you can change into when you know you need something to be done, and then you can bring them in, they're going to do the job for you. B tier has the roles that, you know, they are above average, to be honest. So they work better and they're very aggressive. I kind of like the B tier. Then of course the A tier roles are the roles that at some point in Football Manager you have to put them into your team because they're super aggressive and super effective this year. So thanks for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, do let me know where you would rank these particular player roles along with this A, B, C, C minus D category. So let's know what you think and let me know which role would be your favorite and which role you think wasn't so good this year. Do let me know and I'll see you in the next video.